And if you can live your life, and I swear to God, folks, this is true, and it can be, let me tell you something, it can be very, very, very painful. It really can. At times. It can be beautiful and blissful at other times. But if you can live your life as a monomyth, I swear to God, you know what the true experience of being alive is. That's why when I had the Russell Brand attacks on my forum all over the place, and even though I had people that were quite shocked by it, like James Corbett, and Henrik from Red Eyes jumped in to defend me because of the viciousness of it. At the time, I wasn't that upset by it. As very vicious and personal as some of those comments were, I wasn't upset by it because I was understanding that I was living out my own mythology. You know what I mean? What the Hindus might call the dharma, but it's a Western understanding. The same kind of idea. I knew that I ultimately was responsible for this. I brought it on myself. So I was able to examine it in that light. So my mythology was unfolding. And I wasn't that upset about it. Where other people who hardly knew me were, or what was being said to me. My own mythology was unfolding, and I understood that. And I knew that there was some, this was just what was happening here. I was the Black Knight. I was Judas. But I knew it would pass after a while. And if you like that in every aspect of your life, you sit back from a situation where it's a divorce, a relationship breakup, or even a relationship start. And they're all negative things now, folks. The positive things are having a child. And then you see that in the context of your own personal myth, almost viewing your life story the way a symbolist painter at the turn of the century might have viewed it. The purpose of myth, the real purpose of myth in the true sense, is to sort of like solidify our inner world of dreams, inclinations, feelings, with the outer world of the actual five-sense reality that we experience. And the myth allows, it's almost like a mortar in the bricks. Like a wall, if you just stack bricks up, they used to spell mortar. Well, when you have myth, you understand the wall stands much stronger. So when, if you don't have the mortar there and someone knocks against that wall, the bricks fall down. But if you understand that you're living your own monomyth, and this is part of that mythology, and it doesn't necessarily have, a win-lose orientation, it is part of the mythology, the monomyth. The wall stands much stronger when someone plows into it. You can handle the blows much more effectively. When someone puts a slur against you, you hear, Nigella Lawson, those women said she was like a Duracell bunny, or she was a zombie. Very powerful phrase used these days, zombie. Zombies, again, are our modern myth. Now, I won't say that I saw the people who come up against me at that time with the Russell Brand thing. I'm not going to say they were all zombies, but some of them were. Most of them were well-meaning people who did want a better, mass majority were well-meaning people who did want a better world and were sucked up by celebrity, sucked up by platitudes, and believed that Russell Brand was going to help them deliver it. But others were zombies. They were zombies who will follow any celebrity, any trend. They'll believe that the 2112 thing is going to definitely happen. And when it doesn't happen, they forget about it instantly and look for something else at the end of the world. The next FINA arrests, whatever. And that's how I saw them. I saw them as zombies. So it was a zombie attack on my consciousness. And how do you defend against a zombie attack? Well, you lock the doors in and you shoot them in the head. And I didn't shoot them in the head with a bullet. I shoot them in the head with facts. Look, we've been here before. We've done this. It's not new. He hasn't said anything real. Because a zombie is part of our modern mythology. So when she was called a zombie, the word zombie, the slur, the stab, the word like a knife, zombie, Nigella Lawson was a zombie. When you look at that from the point of a monomyth, you look at the meaning of the book, and the meaning, what's an interesting one is that the Greeks had two words for the word, two meanings to the word, okay? Word like a zombie, or a troll, or a moron, an asshole, or shield, whatever word you want to throw out there. There were two meanings the Greeks had to every word. The first one was mythos, and the second word was logos. Mythos meant the meaning of the word, the mythos of the word, what it really meant. And then logos meant the rational, logical explanation of the word, what it said on the surface. So when these women called Nigella Lawson a zombie, to the average person on the surface, they think of a zombie, like in a zombie movie, like in a George Romero horror film. Brain roll. That was the logos, the rational logic meaning of the word, meaning what the term of reference was to that. However, using the Greek formula of mythos and logos, mythos would give the underlying meaning. And so the underlying meaning was, well, why was she a zombie? Was she lethargic? Now, this is me applying this now. Was she lethargic because of post-traumatic stress from being married to a hyperactive 70-year-old guy who's probably sucking the fucking life-living energy out of her like all psychopaths do, just by being in their presence? Was she a zombie she's a 53-year-old woman, she's not a sprightly young thing anymore. She still looks fantastic and everything. However, she's still 53, flights tire you out, eating all kinds of food and functions and all this stuff drains your energy. You can handle it no problem when you're young. You can't after a certain age. That's just the way it is. So was she just burned out from being the domestic goddess giving us the food porn? And that's the mythos. So when you read these stories, you read the two sides of them. When you wake up, you look at the logos and the mythos, and you see it within your own life as well. And then you learn how to talk and address and say things very, very poignantly and clearly that you have never done in your life, because you choose your words carefully. You choose them according to the mythos and the logos of that word. And then a word becomes something very beautiful. You understand where the roots of legalese, wordplay, spells comes from. You're now living in your own mythology. You're getting the true meanings of these things. You're being exposed to the truest and most profound and most glorious, even when it's painful and rotten, realization of them all. That this is journey that you're on is a story, a narrative that's unfolding. And here's the best bit. You are the script writer. You are the one who says action and cut. You are the one who says, I don't like how the script is unfolding. We're going to change the plot line. As I said in the documentary, the bad guy made the Breaking the Babylon Mind, the tower must fall. And if the script has gone to shit, your monomyth has gone to shite. You tear the tower down just like you would rip up the script and say, folks, we're starting again. If you look at all the best movies ever made, that's how they were written. That's how Kubrick wrote most of his films. Often he didn't know how they were going to end. Maybe in his mind, but the scripts were subject to constant revisions, constant changes. Because he wrote his movies, and that's why films like 2001 and The Shining are such powerful movies, and even Path to Glory, even though there's a basic narrative to it, he was ripping up and tearing the plot line and the story up and every other aspect of it as it went along. He used up lots of money and drove people mad. But in the end, he created films like 2001 where people could sit, ordinary people who weren't very educated, could sit in a cinema for 3 hours and watch a film with almost no dialogue and be riveted, fucking riveted by every visual nuance, by every change in scenery, by every single note of music. That when you did get to the part where they talked in the dialogue, when they spoke about the dialogue, you didn't care. It wasn't that important. And when you listen to a lot of the actual dialogue in 2001, it's not that important. It's fellas talking about what kind of sandwich they're going to have. Until the dialogue begins between Dave and Hal. And that's when the monomyth really begins to unfold. And this is when people are watching this, what they're seeing is, in the logos, the rational logic, is the robot that's gone mad. But in the mythos, it's Kubrick's warning about psychopaths and psychopathic transhumanism. The mythos and the logos one. And he was such a master of that. He was such a sorcerer of the use of cinema that he could make a 3-hour film with no specific hard plot line. And somebody who went to a movie and only knew John Wayne movies and other films that have basic storylines, and Gilligan's Island and whatever crap, the Monkeys was on the TV back at the time, could sit there and be spellbound. And when you asked them later on what was the film about, they would have said, I don't really know, but I think it's the greatest film I've ever seen. And that's what myth and its power really is. And that was Quiet Eyes with the lovely Karen Sawyer over there in Wales with Morning Glory. Now, this story was sent to me, this last story on the final stretch of the Velocity of Now. I can't believe this show is going so quickly. In the final half an hour. And this story was sent to me by a friend in Holland, and it may have missed a lot of people because it was published on a progressive website / journal. But my God, it's just profound. It's if you thought Amazon was sinister before, well, wait until you hear this. This is not from a conspiracy website. This is from a progressive journal. And this is a story written by Norman Solomon, and was published on the 19th of December 2013 under Amazon's CIA cloud, the Washington Post. News media should illuminate conflicts of interest, not embody them. But the owner of the Washington Post is now doing big business with the Central Intelligence Agency, while readers of the newspaper's CIA coverage are left in the dark. Washington Post is a big-time right-wing conservative paper. The Post's new owner, Jeff Bezos, is the founder and CEO of Amazon, which recently landed, wait for this, you hear this one, a $600 million contract with the CIA. But the Post articles about the CIA are not disclosing that any newspaper's sole owner is the main owner of the CIA business partners at Amazon. So the Washington Post not telling anyone this. Even for this is as stinky as mainstream media could possibly get. For a multi-billionaire like Bezos, a $600 million contract is a big deal. That's more than twice as much as Bezos paid to buy the Post 4 years ago. And there's likely to be plenty more where that CIA largesse came from. Amazon's offer wasn't the low bid, but it won the CIA contract anyway by offering advanced, high-technology cloud infrastructure. Kindle, Fire, Cloud. Books, knowledge, up in fucking smoke. You see where it's going? Bezos personally and publicly touts Amazon's web services, and it's evident that Amazon will be seeking more CIA contracts, a bleeding online book sales company. And you saw a little drone video, didn't you? That was probably lent to them by the CIA to push themselves. Last month, Amazon issued a statement saying, "We look forward to a successful relationship with the CIA." Folks, if your bells aren't ringing right now, and if you have friends who go, conspiracy theory, put your tinfoil hat on, you moron, conspiracy theory. This story is in one of their journals. As Amazon's majority owner and the Post's only owner, Bezos stands to gain more if his newspaper does less ruffling and more soothing of the CIA feathers. Amazon has a bad history of currying favor with the U.S. government's national security establishment. The media's watchdog group, FAIR, pointed out what happened after WikiLeaks published the State Department cables. WikiLeaks was booted from Amazon's website service, AWS. So at the height of the public interest in what WikiLeaks was publishing, readers were unable to access WikiLeaks' actual website. But that could have been a psyop in itself as well. Now, how's that for commitment to the public's right to know? Days ago, my colleagues at rootsaction.org launched a petition that says the Washington Post coverage of the CIA should include full disclosure that the sole owner of the Post is also the main owner of Amazon, and Amazon is now gaining huge profits directly from the CIA. More than 15,000 people have signed a petition so far this week. That won't do any good. With many posting comments that underscored widespread belief in journalistic principles. While the Post functions as a powerhouse media outlet in the nation's capital, it is also a national and global entity, read every day by millions of people who never hold its newsprint edition in their hands. Hundreds of daily paper reprints the Post's news, articles and opinion pieces, while online readership spans the world. Propaganda largely depends on patterns of omission and repetition. Not interesting now. I was just talking earlier on about how the Synoptic Gospels were deciphered by its discrepancies in the three Gospels. And that's exactly what's happening here. He just says the same thing. Propaganda largely depends on patterns of omission and repetition and finding those omissions. If in its coverage of the CIA, the Washington Post were willing to fully disclose the financial ties that bind its own to the CIA, such candor would shed some light on how the top-down power actually works within our society. The Post is unquestionably the political paper of record in the United States, and how it covers governance sets the agenda for the balance of the news media. Journalism scholar Robert W. McKenzie points out citizens need to know about this conflict of interest in the columns of the Post itself. In a statement just released by the Institute for Public Accuracy, that's a gas one, Mr. Chesney added, if some official enemy of the United States had a comparable situation, say the owner of a dominant newspaper in Caracas was getting $600 million in secretive contracts from the Maduro government, the Post itself would lead the howling chorus, impaling that newspaper and the government for making a mockery of free press. It is time for the Post to take a dose of its own medicine. From the Institute, we also contacted other media and intelligence analysts to ask for their assessments. Their comments are likely to ever appear in the Washington Post. What emerges now is what, in intelligent parlance, is called an agent of influence, owning the Post. The word agent, as I speak about in my last book, Animal the Psyche, that's actually a magical term. And that word agent is very, very powerful. And that's why they use it in intelligence work. With a huge financial interest in playing nice with the CIA, said former CIA official Ray McGovern. In other words, the two main players nourishing the national security state in undisguised collaboration. A former reporter for the Washington Post and many other news organizations, John Hanran, said it's all so basic. Readers of the Washington Post, which reports frequently on the CIA, are entitled to know and to be reminded on a regular basis in stories and editorials in its newspapers and online. The Washington Post new owner, Jeff Bezos, stands to benefit substantially from Amazon's $600 million contract with the CIA. Even with such disclosure, the public should not feel assured that they're getting tough-minded reporting on the CIA. One thing is certain, Post reporters and editors are aware that Bezos, as the majority owner of Amazon, has a financial stake in maintaining good relationships with the CIA. And this sends a clear message to even the hardest knows journalists that making the CIA look bad might not be a good career move. The rich and powerful blow hard against the frame of truly independent journalism. If we want the lantern carried high, we're going to have to do it ourselves. Now, folks, this is one of the most frightening and disturbing stories of the year. Even though this guy has only looked at it from one specific aspect, and that is the journalistic integrity of the Washington Post, it goes much, much deeper than that. For all intensive purposes, Amazon is now a branch of the Central Intelligence Agency. It's as simple as that. You don't bite the hand that feeds you. At the same time, too, $600 million is money he didn't need. When you really think about it, he didn't need to do a contract with the CIA. Amazon is an online retailer. It's selling this cloud infrastructure to the CIA. Unleashes, reveals the underlying meaning here that's Amazon, and they've already had a history of it, both by the censoring of the WikiLeaks site, or should we say the disabling. It's like thugs, you know the way like old thugs go around a shop in a neighbourhood and they say, "Very nice shop you have here, mate." I don't want to stereotype Londoners. I'll do a Dublin accent. "Yeah, it's a very nice shop you have here. Sorry, you wouldn't want someone to put a brick through the window, would you?" It's the same shit. It's the same psychology. Doesn't matter if they're dealing in big money. What we're dealing with here are street thugs. Street thugs. Now, we also know, I don't know if this is, I'll need confirmation on this, but there was a rumor widely circulated that George Orwell's 1984 didn't appear on Kindle. I don't know if that was true or it has appeared on Kindle. It was always on Kindle, but that was a story that was going around last year. But I will tell you this as an author myself, that Amazon is screwing dissident information such as my own. People who have purchased my books, hard copies, Amazon has offered to buy them back and resell them as discount second-hand books on their website, essentially meaning that if you're an author who isn't J.K. Rowling, Tom Clancy, or Stephen King, they're cutting off your income directly. It is despicable business practices. And this is what they're doing. My books, like Puzzling People, Defeated Demons, and Anvil of the Psyche, have been identified as books which run against what the control system, what the psychopathic control system wants people to know. There's two reasons why, if you do buy my book on Amazon, buy a new one, because I won't get any money anyways if you buy the second-hand buybacks. Secondly, they know who is buying my books, and they're assuming that the people who bought my books are people to be watched. Now, there could be another aspect here, that the ones they send the emails to and say, "Would you sell us back the book?" They know the ones who are not going to sell my books back to them are most likely to be people who are going to cause problems. Think about that one. That the people will hang on to my books or give them to a friend as a valuable, what I call, element of consciousness insurgency, or keep them themselves. The ones who sell them back read the book, it's okay, and then they forgot about it, and they sell it back and try and get other books on the cheap, and that deprives me of a sizable income. So that's why I tell people, if you are buying that books, can you buy them from Book Depository or other Barnes and Nobles or W.H. Smith's or all the other online retailers that are out there? Because folks, when The fact that they have a $600 million contract with the CIA should be enough to begin a boycott of them. This is not an ethical company on numerous levels. This is the Ministry of Truth. The Ministry of Truth is Amazon. Latter-day Winston Smiths are working there now, seeing who bought Puzzling People the envelope beside me? Who is this person? And they buy the book back. And what they've basically done is a commercial version of what Winston Smith was told to do, make unpersons in the media, and then speak into the speak right and control the past, and therefore control the future. You cannot start a fire without a kindle. You kindle the fire first. You see how they're fucking with you and laughing at you and mocking you? Kindle was the beginning, and now they have the fire. And the fire is burning the books. Burning the books. They want everyone reading 50 Shades of Grey. They want everyone reading Harry Potter. They want everyone reading Stephen King. And all the rest of us, other people who are in small-time, self-published, or in small publishing companies like me, after the Kindle, you have the fire, and it goes up in a cloud of fucking smoke. Dark days, folks. Dark days. So we don't have to play. We don't have to live this way. Because again, if you see this in terms of a myth, what I see is fear. When they buy back my books, what I see is fear. I see terror. They wouldn't do it otherwise to authors like me. To try and put us out of business, which they won't, by the way. Fear. So instead of kindle fire, it should be really kindle fear. Instead of cloud, it should be cowardice. These are collaborators. Amazon is a collaborator during wartime. Do you want to collaborate with the Vichy government of online book retailing? Of course you don't. And that's what they're doing. As we move towards this global estate, you have more and more companies sort of metamorphosizing, coagulating, and spreading like an infection, moving their tentacles into every single aspect of our lives. You have companies like Serco doing everything, General Electric doing everything, Aviva doing everything, and now Amazon doing dirty work. It's a jungle out there, folks. It's a jungle. And the biggest jungle of them all is the Amazon. And the Amazon is the richest jungle of them all. Because in the real Amazon, we have a river. And on either side of that river, we have vast amounts of undiscovered gems, healings, medicines, wisdoms, and insights. The pathological Amazon is another river, a river of malignant CIA propaganda running through the information, but likewise it has gems of nuggets, information, insight, healing, and medicines, and undiscovered realizations of absolute human potential. What are they doing to the Amazon rainforest? Kindle them fire. What are they doing to the Amazon online? Kindle them fire. as above, so below. When you understand you're living within the myth, you understand the rules of the game. And then you understand that there's no point in being a black or a white pawn on the chessboard. You know that the only solution is to get off that chessboard. And when you're off that chessboard, you create a new game, a new myth. We don't need Amazon. We don't need the Washington Post. We don't need the CIA. We don't need any of them, those big, grubby, smelly hands moving the black and white pawns against each other. We don't need them. The king is never killed. The king is put into check. All the pawns are killed, but the king only goes into check and checkmate. That's the same thing as being killed. So you get off that bloody chessboard. When you're off the chessboard, you're not living inside their mythology. You're creating your own mythology. Type 1 Radio recently had its 100,000 listener. From very small acorn, has grown something that's quite substantial now. In the alternative media, it is the thorn in the lion's foot of mainstream media. It is the barnacle on the ship of state, slowly eating away at the hull. Remember, no matter what a ship is built of, it always eventually rusts or rots. And that's what we all are. That's how we're surviving. That's a wonderful thing when you realize that. That when you say, I'm not under the mercy of them and their games, I'm off the chessboard looking at it and observing it as a myth, then you're less likely to need salvation from above. Remember, the salvation from a celebrity or a politician is the exact same thing as salvation from a God. Exact same thing. What you're really being saved from is not them. When people say, this celebrity or this politician, be it Obama or anyone, he's going to save us, them. No. What he's really doing is saving you from having to look at yourself. As bad and as pernicious and as twisted and evil as the psychopathic control grid is, ultimately, it's our relationship with it that keeps it going. Don't feed the beast. It's a difficult world at times that we live in. It can be painful at times, but that's supposed to be painful. This is how evolution works. It's supposed to look crap at times. And when you read something like that story about Amazon, it makes you sick to your stomach. That when you buy a book or a product on there, that ultimately you're serving the CIA. You're ending up on a CIA database, and they're all watching you. And then you're paying for the fucking privilege of it. It's crap beyond words. You're paying for the privilege of being spied upon. You're like a slave who's paid for your manacles and your chains. But you can avoid that by shopping at other. And yet, even if they're big corporations, they still don't have the baggage of being connected to the CIA like Amazon does. I still think that boycott is the most powerful method of taking them on if you want to protest. I really do. Along with non-compliance, which is the same thing in a way. But boycott does work. You cut off their money supply, but at the same time, too, you create an alternative. You create an alternative. You don't just say, I'm going to boycott them and suffer them, because that's ultimately going to run you back into them. What you do is, I'm going to boycott them, and I'm going to create something that I don't need them anymore. So therefore, if you want to boycott your expensive utility charges, you put in solar heating. That way you don't freeze to death in winter, and you have the satisfaction of knowing, wow, I actually won against the big guy. In some small way, this tiny victory won me against the big guy. But they want you down there at government buildings going, please do something for us. And that Washington Post, that article I just read about the Washington Post is filled with that. That guy is saying, we want the Washington Post to admit that they're tied up with the CIA. That's just like saying, we want a new investigation into 9/11 or a new investigation into the JFK murders, and we want the guilty brought to prosecution, and I won't stop until guess what? It's never going to fucking happen. Never going to happen. And your belief in justice, that's not for you. Remember that. What was it George Carlin said? It's a rigged game, and you're not in it. So don't hope against hopelessness. Work towards liberation. Work towards freedom. And create a new world. So they're burning the Amazon for real, and they're burning the Amazon online, and the same people behind it all. As above, so below. Mythos, logos. Outer world, inner world. It's just like Swami says, it's the same thing. He does it when he does spirituality. I do it when I talk about psychology and social engineering, but it's all the same thing. All the same bloody thing. So if there's anything you can take from this episode tonight as we head towards these past the solstice, through the Yule Festival, Christian, Diwali, Kwanzaa, into the new year, whatever, carry through this idea that we're not going from one year into another, but we're going from one version of consciousness onto another version of consciousness. And instead of having all the dolls inside the little Russian doll opened and spread out on the table, you're going through intact with all the dolls inside you and a full understanding that you are a product, and all of us and everything is a product, in equality, from the top doll to the doll in the very center, the little small one, moving into a new expansion of personal consciousness, social evolution, that doesn't require a leader, that doesn't require a date, that doesn't require a rule book. Because the rule book has already been written. The rule book is the monomyth of your life. In the greater myth of this experience we call life on Earth. You're just like a character in a video game. You really can, if you get killed, go back to where you last saved. Not physically killed, but where things went wrong. You can go back to where you last got things right and move forward from that point on. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening today. Please have a very safe and happy festival season. Enjoy your Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Diwali, or nothing, wherever it is. Be safe on the roads. And go home, have fun, and prepare yourself for the mythos. I'm Thomas Sheridan. This is the Velocity of Now on the Type 1 Radio Network. Please stay tuned. Tonight in 3 hours we will have SRA Today, Jay Parker, and please continue to support this network of really nice, okay, cool people. The reason I joined this network when I was given other ones is because they were music fans, and we could chat about music and stuff, and that was creativity, and that was what was important to me. There was a human touch there that other places didn't have. And There's a door open here for everyone. It doesn't have an agenda. There is no editorial policy. Everyone throws their ideas in, and it's great. That's great. And that's a classic example of getting off the chessboard and stepping off that chessboard. It's a funny thing, this life. It can be so surreal, knowing that we have to actually live as human beings. I've been, you want to talk about a spiritual crisis. I've kind of been having that. Not that I've been having a sort of a lack of faith. I just don't even know what spirituality is anymore. I'm involved in a lot of research right now for some future projects, and it's just, I don't know what spirituality is at this point in time. I fully understand what it is, but I want to know why people are drawn to it. At the same time, too, I'm not an atheist. I'm not out to destroy with spirituality, religion, or people's faith. In fact, when I meet someone who's of a sincere and rich faith, or truly spiritual, there's even an aspect of me that wishes I could be more like them. But I have to say there's very few of them. There's an awful lot of spiritual motherfuckers out there who pretend to be spiritual, but they're really hiding behind a mask to attack you. But when you meet the real ones, no matter what their religion or their spirituality is, or you can even meet atheists or agnostics who are like that, those old souls I spoke about at the beginning of the show, you realize that there is something more to it. And these are also part of the Monomyth. These are also part of the mythology. These are just like the real life Obi-Wan Kenobis or Yodas, or, any kind of, person that you have in a story along the way who helps point you in the direction along the road. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you back in 2014. And thanks very much, Swami, for doing a great job.